You think recycling is a confusing mess, right? You probably believe most of it just ends up in a landfill anyway. But Japan's system breaks every single one of those beliefs. They've turned detailed sorting, from flattened cartons to separated caps, into a powerhouse that fuels a $30 billion industry. Get ready to see how one country made waste a treasure and why your city could learn from it. Let's be honest, most of our recycling systems are a bit of a guessing game. We just toss everything into one big blue bin and hope for the best. But in Japan, they've turned this entire process into a science, and it starts right in your kitchen. This isn't about just separating paper from plastic. We're talking about a system where people wash and flatten milk cartons, remove every single bottle cap and label, and sort their trash into very specific, color-coded bags. In some of the most dedicated towns, there are as many as 45 different categories for waste. It might sound intense, but the results are undeniable. By treating trash as a valuable resource from the very beginning, Japan successfully reclaims over 80% of its waste. This is the secret to how they built that incredible $30 billion industry from what we throw away. But this incredible system wasn't built just to be efficient. It was born out of a crisis. Japan is an island nation. It has a lot of people, but not a lot of space. For decades, the country was facing the very real risk of being buried in its own garbage. There was simply nowhere left to put it. On top of that, Japan doesn't have many natural resources of its own. No massive forests to chop down, no giant mines to dig into. They have to import almost everything. So they were stuck. They had too much trash and not enough stuff. This forced them to come up with a brilliant change in thinking. What if trash isn't an endpoint? What if it's the starting point for something new? This simple idea, that waste becomes a resource when sorted, is the engine behind their entire system. It's why people are so careful about cleaning and separating everything. They're not just getting rid of garbage, they're preparing raw materials. And you can see this philosophy in action everywhere. In the city of Yokohama, organic waste isn't thrown in a landfill. It's collected and turned into fertilizer, which then helps grow more food for the city. It's a perfect closed loop. In another part of the country, they process over 8 million tons of plastic every year, turning old packaging into new bottles or even fibers for making clothes. They even do this with cars. When a car reaches the end of its life, it's not just crushed into a cube. It's carefully taken apart, and almost 95% of its total weight, all the steel, aluminum, and other valuable metals, is recovered and reused. This is what happens when you're forced to be clever. Japan turned its biggest weaknesses, no space and no resources, into its greatest strength. They built an entire economy out of things that everyone else just throws away. So what does this actually look like inside a regular Japanese home? Well, if you move there, one of the first things you'll get is a huge, detailed guide on how to handle your trash. And the rules can be overwhelming. It's not just about separating paper and plastic. It's a whole ritual. Take a simple plastic drink bottle. You don't just toss it in a bin. First, you have to rinse it out completely. Then, you peel off the plastic label. After that, you unscrew the cap. The bottle, the label, and the cap all go into different bags because they're all different types of plastic. It's the same for a milk carton. You're expected to cut it open, wash it out, let it dry, and then flatten it. In many cities, you even have to tie a bundle of these flattened cartons together with a specific paper string. This level of detail is why you barely see any public trash cans in Japan. The system is built around the idea that you sort everything perfectly at home, and you have to get it right. Each type of waste has its own specific collection day, usually in an early morning window. The collection workers will actually inspect the bags at the curb. If you didn't sort it correctly, they'll stick a note on it and just leave it there for you to fix. But there's a very practical reason for all this. This strict sorting at home is the quality control for the entire system. Even a tiny bit of leftover food or oil in a container can contaminate an entire batch of plastics, making it useless for recycling. In some places, they take this to an incredible extreme. The small town of Kamakatsu, for example, sorts its waste into 45 different categories. So this isn't just about being clean. Every single household is doing the most important job, preparing perfect, uncontaminated raw materials. They are the first and most critical step in that $30 billion industry we talked about. So all that meticulous work at home isn't just about keeping things neat and tidy. It's the fuel for a massive industrial engine that's worth over $30 billion a year. This isn't just a feel-good project. It's a core part of Japan's economy. The whole system is so efficient that over 80% of everything thrown away gets turned back into valuable energy or new materials. They don't see it as trash, they see it as a resource. Let's follow one of those perfectly clean plastic bottles. Once it's collected, it goes to a plant where it gets shredded, melted, and turned into tiny, pure plastic pellets. Those pellets can then be used to make brand new bottles, creating a perfect bottle-to-bottle loop. Or they can be spun into fibers to make clothes, carpets, and all sorts of textiles. And it's not just the small stuff. Take an old car that's ready for the scrap heap. In Japan, anywhere from 85 to 95% of that car's total weight will be recycled. That's almost a ton of steel, hundreds of pounds of aluminum and copper, all melted down to be used again in new cars or construction. They even process the old catalytic converters to pull out precious metals like platinum and palladium. But it's not just industrial materials, either. The system finds a use for everything. In some cities, food scraps and other organic household waste get turned directly into fertilizer for local farms. Even something you'd never think about, like coconut husks, gets processed. They're turned into materials used for things like mattresses, biodegradable plant pots, and even to help build more sustainable roads. Every single item, from a milk carton to a car, has a destination. It's a complete reversal of how most of us think about waste. Instead of being the end of the line, throwing something away is just the beginning of its next life. Japan took their big trash problem and flipped it. They proved that waste isn't worthless. It's a resource, feeding a $30 billion industry every year. It all works because everyday people carefully sort their stuff, from cleaning bottles to taking apart old cars. This isn't some lucky accident. It's solid work. Over 80% of their waste gets reused. Plastics turn into new bottles. Food scraps become farm fertilizer. Old cars are almost entirely reused. Sure, it looks very detailed, like sorting into dozens of categories. But that intense effort at home makes the whole waste system incredibly simple and efficient for the country. It really makes you think, right? Our recycling can feel like a confusing mess. But Japan turned theirs into a treasure. Can our cities do the same? Can we make our own waste a valuable resource? If you're curious about how other big problems get solved with surprising simplicity, stick around. Subscribe now so you don't miss what's next.